Hi everyone. Today I have a really fun project to share with you, and it might even make you hungry by the end. We are going to make a donut themed birthday card, and I am going to show you how to make the donuts by hand by using these 1.5 inch circle templates that I punched out using a 1.5 inch circle punch. You could also use, if you have a small bottle or a cap around the house that's about 1.5 inches, you could use that as well to serve as the outline of your donut. So you don't need to be precise here. I'm just trying to roughly trace out our donuts. And I could have done this by hand as well, but I thought by using the template, I could at least ensure that the donuts would all be about the same size in the end. I'm going to hand draw in the little donut hole in the center just by making a little O right in the center. It doesn't have to be exactly precise. It can even be a little off center. Donuts in real life are imperfect, and that's what we're trying to capture with this little sketch. I'm just tracing on the frosting in an irregular pattern on each donut, and the color that I'm using to trace my outline was W0. I always like to trace with a light Copic marker. Sometimes I use C0. This time I'm using W0. Now I am filling in the cake part of the donut, and we're not going to add any shading at this point. We are just going to add the base layer. So I'm using E30 as a base layer for the first two donuts, and then we'll use E42 for the next two, and then finally E51 for the last two. I just wanted their donuts all to appear somewhat similar but have a little bit of variation, and I think by the end we may even turn one of these little donuts into a chocolate donut. So you can always go darker, it's much harder to go lighter, so that's why I'm just trying to sketch in where the cakey part of the donut is so that my icing, I have a better sense of where I need to put my icing when we get to that point. And I'm just going to fill in these last two donuts with the E51, and then we can get started working on our icing for the first donut. Or I guess first we are going to fill in the donut hole. And here I'm going to add a little 3D element. I don't know if you can see that, but in the upper right quadrant, I'm just adding a little bit of a curve. It looks like a crescent moon. And that's just so that we can see the donut that is peeking out from underneath the icing in the center part. So again, you're just going to make a little crescent moon in one corner of your donut to get that little 3D element going. I'm going to do the same with this donut, and we are going to shade over this several more times, including with our icing donut. So you just want to sketch out the general area of where that little 3D donut hole will be. We're going to have some more chances to shade it in later. Now I am coloring in the frosting for our first donut, and I started by tracing my darkest color around the donut hole and then around the edges of the icing. And the method that you use to make the icing look 3D is that you want to go dark from the edges, meeting with the lightest color on the inside. So we're going to go W5 along the outside, and then W3, and then W1, and then W00, and then we're going to do that same thing in reverse. So from the donut hole out, we're going to go W5, W3, W1, and then W00, leaving the center part really, really light. So we're going to do that again with this donut in the upper right-hand corner. So just you can see my words in action here. So I started with the C3, I guess, and then we're going to go C1. And I'm putting the W1 in the center as well because I already laid down my darker color. And then W0 around the edges, heading towards the center, and then some W0 coming out from the center. So you get that nice light ring in the middle. And the idea is to get the edges and the center to almost meet. And by leaving a little bit of white in the center, that's how you get that really, really nice 3D effect. It looks like the icing is just kind of piled on top of the donut. So we're going to do this 4 more times. this time with some pink frosting. So this will be our strawberry donut. So I'm going to start with my darkest color on the edges of the frosting and then in the center of that donut hole. Then I'm going to take my mid-tone, this is the RV52, and blend out that darkest shade going from the inside, and now we're going to go along the outside edge. Same exact technique. This is so easy to replicate. You're just going dark to light, edges inwards with that nice white highlight in the center. And that's going to give you a really beautiful 3D donut with icing that just looks like it's popping off the page. Okay, this is going to be our purple donut. I guess maybe this is a raspberry flavored donut maybe. I'm going to take my darkest color, which is V25, and go along the edges of the icing and around the donut hole. And then I'm going to take my V22, which is the mid-tone, do the same thing, blend inward from the edge and then inward from the donut, outward from the donut hole. And I still have that nice white ring in the center, which is the key to the 3D effect. And then we're going to take our V20 and we are going to fill in the center because it's really, really light. And then I just wanted to kind of play around and see if I could add some more texture. So I added another little dark streak of our darkest shade. Sorry, my hand is hiding that now, but you'll see in a second what that does. It just makes it look like there's a little lump of icing on the left side of the purple donut. Now we're going to make our chocolate frosted donut, and I'm using E27 for our darkest shade, leaving a little ring around the edge of the donut and then around the donut hole, blending inwards with E25. And then we're going to take some E23 and blend inwards even more, and then outwards once we get to the donut hole. And again, we have that beautiful white center that we're leaving open for right now. And then I'm gonna add some E55, which is a nice light shade that complements the E23 very well. And I'm gonna blend the E23 out so that just a little bit of that white is peeking through. And I just love how shiny that makes the donut look. Now we're gonna take our little, I guess this is our St. Patrick's Day themed donut. This is our little green ice donut. And we are going to take G24, I believe that was. And then we're going to use our mid-tone G43. And then G40 is our lightest shade here. And we're doing that same technique over and over again. Dark on the edges, inwards, and then dark at the donut hole, lightening up towards the center, leaving that beautiful white ring in the center that makes it look 3D and shiny. Now I'm just darkening up my donut holes. So I just added a little bit of E55 there, right along the top edge. And then I'm going to trace the outer edge of the donut with that same E55. And I'm going to trace underneath the icing with the E55 as well. We're going to use the same technique that we did on the frosting, which is we have the darkest on our edges and then in the center with our lightest shade in the center of the part we're coloring. And that's what helps give this rounded shape a 3D effect. So this donut we're going to do the same way, E55 along the edges of the donut and underneath the icing. And then we're going to mesh everything together with our E53. And just blend that together nicely so we get a nice 3D looking cakey part of our donut. I'm going to add some lightness to the center with my E51 just to help with that 3D effect. Some E55 along the inside edge of the donut hole right underneath that frosting. And I'm making sure to maintain that little crescent shape in the upper right quadrant of the donut because that's going to help with the 3D effect. You don't want to have your shading in the donut hole all the same, so you don't want it to look like a sun, like a full sun or a full moon. You want the shading to really look like a crescent moon. So otherwise it'll look weird. You'll see it looks much better if you just have the cakey part peeking out from the upper right quadrant, or you can pick any spot on the donut, any quadrant in that little donut hole circle. Okay, for the chocolate donut, I am using E35 as my darkest shade because I'm trying to make a chocolatey donut here. And then we're gonna have some E30 along the edges. I guess that wasn't a chocolate donut, I guess that's a vanilla one as well. This one, our darkest shade is E43. This is the one we shaded in E42 originally. And again, the method here is your darkest color for the cake, like closest to the top of that circle, right by the frosting, and a little crescent shape in the upper right corner. And then you're going to add your darkest shading for the cake right underneath the icing and then along the edges of the donut. And then you're going to blend it all together. And that's going to help give it a really beautiful 3D effect. These donuts are still pretty stylized, but they're almost realistic looking. Almost. If you look really quickly, it might look like a real donut. Okay, I'm just gonna finish up my shading on the cake part of our donuts, and then we're gonna move on to a really fun part of this coloring project. We're gonna add all of our little sprinkles and decorations to the tops of our donuts in a second. And so I'm gonna draw in a little layer of some chocolate syrup on top of this donut, and I just took an E55 marker and I just drew a curvy line going across the donut and then down the hole and then up through the top of the donut. So just imagine if you were to take a bottle of caramel sauce and just drizzle it over the top of the donut. That's the motion that I used to draw in this little caramel drizzle. Now to make it look 3D and have it pop off the page, I used E55, which is my lightest tone, and then E25, which is our shadow tone, and you're just going to add a strip of that E25 right along the edge of that little drizzle strip, and that's going to make it look 3D. So you have those two browns touching up against each other. For the sprinkles, we're going to add little dashes of BG02 and then BG05 on top of it. So we have some nice blue sprinkles on that donut. On this little donut in the lower right hand corner, we're going to add some purple and pink sprinkles. And I'm using the same colors that we use for our purple and pink frosted donuts, just to keep all the same colors in play for the card. We're going to make another little chocolate drizzle on top of this donut, and instead of doing a squiggly scribble, I thought I would just have some little streams of chocolate, like just kind of drizzled in 3 separate stripes there. And I'm going to use that same technique of using 2 different browns with the darker brown on one edge of each of the strips just to make it dimensional looking. So we have E25 and E27 are brown tones there. You can make your stripes as thick as you like or as thin as you like. It's really up to you. You just want to make sure you have 2 colors to make it look realistic. And now we're going to add some little powdery sprinkles on our pink donut here with a white gel pen. I'm just adding some little flecks. I'm going to put a little fleck on top of each of the sprinkles just to make them pop off the page a little bit. Looks like there's a little shine hitting them. And then I'm going to add some white highlights on top of our caramel drizzle. And then this didn't quite work out. I put some little dots on top of the purple donut. Didn't like how it looked, so I just kind of smeared it and made it look like a little shine mark by just connecting the little dots there. We're going to add some chocolate sprinkles to our St. Patty's Day donut in the lower right hand corner, and then we're going to add some highlights right on top of the white gel pen. Just a little fleck of white on top of each of the brown sprinkles or chocolate sprinkles. And then we're going to add some powdery sugar flakes on top of this chocolate donut here as well. Now I'm going to add a little shadow underneath the donuts to make them pop off the page. So in that lower right hand quadrant, I'm just drawing a little, like another little crescent right underneath the cakey part of the donut coming off to the right. And I'm going to use 2 to 3 different colors of warm gray here, with the darkest warm gray right underneath the flesh of the donut, and with the lightest gray farthest away from the donut. So we're going dark to light, inside to out for a little shadow there. And it just adds a little something. You barely notice it, and that's the point. We just want the donuts to look a little bit more dimensional and a little bit more like they're popping off the page. So that's the reason for adding this little shadowing here. I'm going to show you another version of the card that doesn't have the shadowing, and you can decide which you prefer. And this all looks good. There's our little box of donuts, and now we can cut down our card panel and add it to a card base. And I pre-cut all of my pieces ahead of time. I cut this down just so that the donuts themselves showed, so I cut off all the excess white space around the donuts, and then just put a little black cardstock border of about 1/4 of an inch around the edges. Maybe that's 1/8 of an inch. I don't know how big it is. I just kind of work my way out from the focal panel and just cut around that. Just going to add some foam tape on this panel, and then we're going to attach it to a piece of pattern paper. This is from MFT Stamps. It's a turquoise pattern paper with these cute little hearts on it, and it is cut out to an A2 size card. And then we have "You do not even know how excited I am about your birthday," a sentiment from Mama Elephant's donut stamp set that I think they released about 2 years ago. But any happy birthday sentiment would work here. Or if you're making your donut card for another occasion, really any sentiment could work. Thank you could work here. Congratulations. Let's celebrate. Lots of ideas to make a card out of this coloring project. So I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. I hope you learned a lot, and I really hope that you give the donuts card a try. It is so much fun to make. It's so easy, and you will have a great time decorating your donuts. And I bet as soon as you're done, you will be taking a trip to the bakery to go get yourself some donuts, because this project will definitely make you hungry. All right, thanks a lot. I will see you again soon in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.